Howdy, folks. Now, I got a question for you. What do you get when you cross a rifle with a grenade launcher, add a computer brain, and give it to a bunch of engineers who've watched way too much sci-fi? You get the latest arms race that nobody's talking about, but everybody should be paying attention to. See, now, while everyone else has been arguing about hypersonics and AI-powered drones, the U.S. military has been quietly cooking up something that's gonna change how infantry fights forever. We're talking about precision grenade launchers that are so smart they make your iPhone look like a calculator from the 80s. Now, I know what you're thinking. Buck, we've had grenade launchers since Vietnam. What's the big deal? Well, the difference between your granddaddy's M79 dumper and these new systems is like comparing a horse and buggy to a hypercar. Sure, they'll both get you where you're going, but one of them's got a whole lot more bells and whistles. This right here is a standard 40mm grenade. Point, shoot, and hope it hits something important. But what if I told you the military's new toys can program each round to explode exactly where you want it, when you want it, and how you want it? What if I told you they're building grenade launchers that can take down drones, punch through armor, and make enemy cover about as useful as a screen door on a sub? Today we're diving deep into Precision Grenadier System, the PGS, and why it's got everyone from Barrett to FN scrambling to build the next generation of launchers. Now, before we dive into the fancy new stuff, let's talk about why the military decided to fix something that wasn't exactly broken, but wasn't exactly perfect either. See, this beauty right here is the M203. Been serving our boys overseas since the early 70s, and it is a fine piece of equipment. Reliable as sunrise, simple as a hammer, and it'll put a 40mm grenade pretty much where you point it. But here's the thing, this is where it gets interesting. The M203 has some limitations that become real problems when you're facing modern threats. First off, it's single shot. Fire once, reload, fire again. That's fine when you're dealing with one target, but what happens when you got multiple threats? What happens when that first shot doesn't do the job? Well, you're standing there trying to reload while the bad guys, they're shooting back. And second, it's attached to your rifle. Now that sounds convenient, and it is in some ways, but try carrying an M4 with an extra M203 attached for a 12-hour patrol? That extra weight hanging out the front of your rifle throws off the balance, makes it harder to aim, and turns your weapon into a front-heavy club. Plus, good luck getting comfortable in any kind of cover when you got that tube sticking out under your barrel. Third, and this is the big one, traditional grenade launchers fire in an arc. That means they're technically indirect fire weapons, which means you're lobbing grenades like you're playing horseshoes at a church picnic. That works fine when your target's behind cover and you want to drop a grenade on their heads, but it's not so great when you need precision. Finally, every grenade is basically a dumb bomb. You pull the trigger, it flies through the air and explodes when it hits something or when the timer runs out. No programming, no smart features, no ability to adapt to a situation. Like using a sledgehammer when what you really need is a scalpel. So, the Army looked at all these problems and said, you know what? We can do better. And that's how the Precision Grenadier System was born. Now, the official Army requirements for this thing read like something out of a video game. They wanted a weapon that was portable, semi-automatic, magazine-fed, and capable of precision engagements out to 500 meters or more. They wanted it to destroy personnel targets both in the open and in cover with a time of flight no greater than 3 seconds out 500 meters. But here is where it gets interesting. They didn't just want a better grenade launcher. They wanted a whole family of smart ammunition. We're talking about counter-defilade rounds that can precisely defeat personnel hiding behind cover, close quarters battle rounds for targets less than 35 meters away, counter-UAS rounds specifically designed to take down drones, armor-piercing rounds for hardened targets, and training rounds that work just like the real thing without the boom. Now, if you're thinking this thing sounds like something out of Warhammer 40K, you're not wrong. These things look like bolters, they shoot explosive rounds, and they're designed to make enemy cover completely useless. The only thing missing is a space marine to carry them. Here's the thing, this ain't sci-fi anymore, this is real and it's happening right now. After the initial competition, 2 companies made it to the finals. Barrett Firearms with their squad support rifle system, the SSRS, and FN America with their PGS-001. Let me tell you, both of these systems are impressive in their own ways. Let's start with the Barrett's entry, the SSRS. Now, Barrett's been in the big bore game for a long time. These guys are the folks who brought us the M82 50 caliber rifle that's been turning bad guys into pink mist since the 80s. So when they decided to build a grenade launcher, you knew it was going to be something special. The SSRS weighs in at just under 14 pounds. That's about the same as an M249 saw, but without the bipod that's always getting caught on everything and making noise like a bag of hammers. It's just under 34 inches long, which makes it manageable in tight spaces, and it fires 30 by 42 millimeter projectiles from a 5-round Bach magazine. Now, 30mm might not sound like much compared to the traditional 40mm grenades we're used to, but here's the thing. Smaller rounds can fly faster and flatter. When you're shooting explosives, it doesn't matter how fast you hit the target, because, well, damage comes from the payload going kaboom, not from kinetic energy. The SSRS comes with all the modern conveniences you'd expect, too. Got a real system for optics and accessories, and the demo model they showed off was fitted with a Vortex XM157 optic. That is the same advanced sight that's going on the Army's new XM7 rifles. This thing's got a built-in laser rangefinder, digital display overlay, and more computing power than the Apollo moon missions. At the AUSA Expo, Barrett showed off 9 different types of ammunition for this system. High explosive, incendiary, armor-piercing, training rounds, and something they called a close quarters battle shell that's basically a 30mm shotgun round. I mean, imagine explaining that to your insurance company. Anyways, FN's PGS 001 is a bit more mysterious. FN's been playing their cards close to their chest, but what we do know is pretty impressive. Got a similar layout to the Barrett system, also fires 30mm rounds, and features what can only be described as a massive muzzle brake that would help mitigate recoil. The big difference we can see is the muzzle brake. It's huge, and it's designed to redirect the blast and recoil from firing these 30mm rounds. That's good news for the shooter, but bad news for anyone standing nearby when this thing goes off. Now, the United States ain't the only country playing this game. While we've been developing our systems, the Chinese have been busy too. And unlike our prototypes that are still in testing, they've actually got something in service. Meet the QL-1, also known as the Grenade Sniper Rifle. Now, that is a hell of a name, and it gives you a pretty good idea how the Chinese are thinking about this problem differently than we are. Now, I'm not gonna lie, people, the QL-1 is a beast. It's 28 pounds empty, and that is twice as heavy as the American systems, and it fires a 35mm round from either a 3, 5, or 7-round drum mag. This thing is so heavy and has so much recoil that it can only be effectively fired from a bipod or tripod. Honestly, it's more of a crew-served weapon than something an individual soldier would carry. But here's where it gets interesting. QL-1 has a maximum range of 1,100 meters. That's more than double what the American systems are designed for. The Chinese built this thing to sit on a mountaintop along the Indian border or on the beaches of Taiwan, reach out and touch someone from way, way out there. The Chinese are expecting to fight in places like the Himalayas, where you might be looking at your enemy for an hour before you get close enough to actually engage them. Or they're thinking about Taiwan, with its growing number of bunkers, trenches, and fortified positions. QL-1 is designed to sit back and methodically destroy enemy positions from a long range. The Americans, on the other hand, are prepared for something more like what we're seeing in Ukraine. Shorter sight lines, more mobile warfare, and the need to engage targets as close as 35 meters. That's why our systems are lighter, more portable, and designed to be carried by individual soldiers. Now here's where things get real sci-fi. The whole point of these new systems isn't just to shoot bigger grenades, it's to shoot smarter grenades. This right here is a traditional 40mm high explosive round. When you fire it, it flies through the air and it explodes when it hits something or when a timer runs out. Simple, reliable, and effective, but also pretty dumb. The new smart rounds can be programmed before you fire them. Using the laser rangefinder in your optic, you can tell the grenade exactly where to explode. Want it to go off right above an enemy trench? No problem. Want it to explode inside a bunker after flying through the window? You got it. Want to airburst over a group of enemies in the open? Easy as pie. This is what they call counter-defilade, the ability to defeat enemies who are hiding behind cover. If someone's hiding in a trench, behind a wall, or inside a building, traditional grenades might not be able to reach them effectively, but a smart grenade can be programmed to fly over their cover and explode right above their heads. But wait, there's more! Remember how I mentioned counter-UAS rounds? That's military speak for anti-drone ammunition. These rounds are specifically designed to detect and destroy unmanned aircraft. Here's how it works. Spot a drone, you aim at it with your smart optic, and the system calculates the intercept point, then you fire a round that's programmed to explode when it gets close to the target. Folks, that's like having a miniature surface-to-air missile system that fits right in your hands. Now you might be thinking, Buck, can't you just use a regular airburst round to take down a drone? Well, sure, you could try, but that'd be like trying to swat a fly with a sledgehammer while blindfolded. These specialized rounds are designed to detect the proximity of the drone and explode only when they're close enough for their payload to be effective. But you might be wondering why all this matters. Why should you care about fancy grenade launchers when there are plenty of other things and plenty of other ways to blow things up? Well, let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're the squad leader in some godforsaken corner of the world and you come across a hardened target. Maybe a bunker, maybe a lightly armored vehicle, maybe just some bad guys hiding behind a concrete wall. With traditional weapons, you've got limited options. Rifle rounds aren't going to do much against concrete steel. You could use an AT-4 or a Carl Gustave, but you might need to save those for bigger threats, or maybe you don't want to get close enough to use them effectively. You could call for artillery or air support, but that takes time, requires coordination, and might not be available when you need it. Plus, you're giving away your position and potentially putting other friendly forces at risk. But with one of these precision grenade launchers, you've got organic fire support right there in your hands. See a support bunker? Program a round to explode inside it. See enemies behind cover? Program that round to airburst above them. See a drone overhead? Take it down with a specialized round. You don't need to wait for support. You don't need to coordinate with other units. You don't need to expose yourself by getting closer. Please don't expose yourself. You just aim, program, and fire. This is what the military calls reducing the logistics tail. Instead of needing mortars, artillery, air support, and heavy weapons teams, you can accomplish many of the same missions with a single weapon system carried by one soldier. For the Chinese, this makes sense because in the mountains of the Himalayas or in the beaches of Taiwan, there aren't going to be a lot of spaces to set up mortars or coordinate artillery strikes. Having a long-range precision grenade launcher gives them capabilities they wouldn't otherwise have in those environments. For us Americanos, it fits perfectly with our doctrine of maneuver warfare. Our forces can keep moving without having to wait for support assets to catch up or reposition. The artillery can keep doing its artillery things. The air support can focus on bigger targets, and the infantry can handle their own problems. Now, I would be lying if I said this is all sunshine and rainbows. These systems come with their own set of challenges and concerns. First, there's a cost. Smart ammunition ain't cheap. We're talking about rounds that cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars a piece. Compare that to a traditional 40mm grenade that costs maybe $50, and you can see how math gets ugly real quick. Secondly, there's the weight issue. These systems are heavy and the ammunition's also heavy. A soldier carrying one of these systems plus ammunition is going to be loaded down like a pack mule. That affects mobility, endurance, and overall combat effectiveness. And third, there's the complexity factor. These aren't simple point-and-shoot weapons. They require training on a ballistic computer, understanding how to program different types of rounds, and knowing when to use which type of ammunition. It's a lot more complicated than point the tube at the bad guy and pull the trigger. And then we got the reliability question, because the more complex the system is, the more things can go wrong. Make sense? What happens when a ballistic computer fails? What happens when the programming system doesn't work? What happens when you're in the middle of a firefight and your fancy smart grenade launcher turns into an expensive club? We've seen this before with systems like the XM25 Punisher. It was supposed to be revolutionary, but it was so heavy, so complex, and so unreliable that soldiers in Afghanistan refused to carry it. The program was eventually canceled after spending billions of dollars. You know, this ain't the first time the military's tried to revolutionize a grenade launcher. Yeah, we've been down this road before, and it's worth looking at what we can learn from past attempts. Back in the early 2000s, the military had this idea for something called the XM29 Objective Individual Combat Weapon. It was going to be a rifle and a grenade launcher combined into one system with smart ammunition and all the bells and whistles. The XM29 was supposed to be the future of infantry weapons. Had a 20mm smart grenade launcher, an integrated 5.56mm rifle, thermal optics, laser rangefinder, and a ballistic computer. It looked like something out of Starship Troopers, and the military was convinced it was going to change everything. But it was a disaster. It was too heavy, too complex, too expensive, and too unreliable. Soldiers couldn't carry it effectively, they couldn't maintain it in the field, and they couldn't even afford to shoot it. The program was then eventually split into two parts. The rifle became the XM8, which also failed. The grenade launcher became the XM25, which also failed. So what's different this time? Why should we believe that the PGS program will succeed where the XM29 and XM25 failed? Well, for one thing, the technology's improved dramatically. Computers are smaller, lighter, and more reliable. Manufacturing processes are better, and the military's learned some hard lessons about what works and what doesn't. The PGS are also more focused. Instead of trying to replace the rifle and the grenade launcher with one super weapon, they're just trying to build a better grenade launcher. that is a more achievable goal. Now let's talk about what this means on the international stage, because this ain't just about having cooler toys, this is about maintaining military superiority in an increasingly competitive world. The Chinese QL-1 system's already been deployed and used in combat operations. It's been used by Chinese Marines in anti-piracy operations off the coast of Somalia, and it's been exported to countries like Saudi Arabia. That means China's got a head start in this particular arms race. But more importantly, the QL-1 is specifically designed for the kinds of conflicts China's most likely to face. Long-range precision fires in the mountainous terrain along the Indian border. Bunker-busting capabilities for potential operations against Taiwan. Chinese didn't build this system by accident, they built it for specific strategic purposes. Now, the American response with the PGS program is designed for different scenarios. Shorter range, more mobile operations, urban warfare, counterinsurgency, the ability to engage multiple target types with the same weapon system. But here's another factor here: alliance compatibility. Whatever system the US adopts will likely be adopted by NATO allies and other partnering nations. What that does is create a huge market for the winning company and ensures that American allies have access to the same capabilities. This is pretty important because modern warfare ain't just about having the best individual weapons, it's about having systems that work together, that can share information and can be supported logistically across multiple countries and services. So where does this leave us? What can we expect to see in the coming years? Well, the Army is expected to make a decision on the PGS program sometime in the next year or two. Whichever system they choose will then go into production and start being fielded to combat units. But fielding the hardware is just the beginning. Military will need to develop new tactics, techniques, and procedures for using these systems effectively. They'll need to train soldiers on not just how to operate the weapons, but when and how to use different types of ammunition. They'll need to build the logistics infrastructure to support the systems in the field. That means ammunition production, maintenance facilities, spare part supply chain, and all the other unglamorous stuff that makes modern military operations possible. And they'll need to figure out how to integrate these systems with existing weapons and tactics. A precision grenade launcher doesn't replace everything else, it supplements it. The challenge is figuring out how all the pieces fit together. Meanwhile, other countries aren't standing still either. The Chinese will continue to improve the QL-1 and develop new systems. The Russians, despite their current problems, have their own grenade launcher programs, and European countries are working on their own solutions too. The technology will continue to advance. Smaller computers, better sensors, smarter ammunition, more reliable systems. What we're seeing now is just the beginning. And that just about sums it up, folks. The latest arms race you've never heard of. While everyone else has been focused on hypersonics and AI, the military's been quietly revolutionizing one of the most basic infantry weapons. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, Buck, this all sounds great, but when can I get one for my collection? Well, unless you're planning on joining the Army, you're probably going to be waiting a while. These systems are designed for military use, and they're probably going to stay that way. That doesn't mean we can't appreciate the engineering and innovation that goes into them. These represent some of the most advanced small arms technology ever developed. They're a testament to both American ingenuity and manufacturing capability. Listen, if you enjoyed learning about the latest developments in military technology, make sure you hit that like button harder than a 30mm smart grenade hitting a bunker. And if you want to see more deep dives into the weapons and systems that are shaping the future of warfare, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We got plenty more where this came from. Speaking of the future of warfare, you might be wondering how these new precision grenade launchers compare to some of the other advanced weapon systems the military is developing. Well, you're in luck, because in my next video, we're going to be talking about the Army's new XM7 rifle and how it fits into the bigger picture of the military modernization. Click on that video right there to learn about the rifle that's supposed to replace the M4. Why some folks think that might be the biggest mistake the Army's made since trying to replace the M14 with the M16. Until next time, keep your powder dry, your groups tight, and y'all come back now, you hear?